Greetings, Clods. This isn't like something I plan to make sort of a regular thing, these kind of sort of doing vlogs of Steven Universe, because even though I like the show, the honest truth is there are a lot of episodes that there just isn't anything to say about. I like a lot of the episodes I don't have anything to say about, but it's kind of a weird sort of catch-22, good episode, but nothing to say. It's just, fun, little entertaining, funny stuff, and that's it, really. But this is an episode, actually, where I did feel just the need to do a just sort of like one-off kind of thing, because I have a lot of thoughts about this episode, actually. Really good way of sort of rounding off Amethyst's little sort of self-doubt character arc that's been going on in the sort of preceding kind of episodes. Because prior to that, certainly with the possible exception of Peridot, I think Amethyst is probably my favourite character because she does have a much more sort of laid-back kind of attitude towards everything. And she kind of does sort of know and kind of just accept that maybe she's kind of the less experienced member of the team. She's kind of like the rookie. But she's not bothered about that role. She realises, she's got like Pearl and Garnet, as like her mentors to sort of try and lead her, and she's not sort of bothered by that. When sort of Steven, the sort of quite obviously less experienced person, then comes along and perhaps she sort of maybe feels has kind of overtaken her. When the student overcomes the teacher almost, the student sort of overtakes your teachings and actually becomes better than you. That's maybe when this sort of self-doubt started to sink in, and maybe she sort of thought to herself that Steven's not been part of this team for anything like as long as I have, and yet he's already better than me. This is kind of an interesting kind of end to this sort of character arc of her maybe sort of taking matters into her own hands, because generally speaking I don't really like these kinds of arcs that characters have, these sort of self-doubt things, because I feel it's always just a case of it being resolved by the mentor character just going and having a little speech with them and saying, oh no, you're still worth it, or they just sort of figure it out for themselves, or they're forced into a situation where they have to save everybody, and of course they're able to just pull it off just because plot convenience sort of thing. They just suddenly become a lot more competent at what it is that they're doing. But here Amethyst actually sort of takes matters a bit too far. She sort of takes sort of irrational actions to try and help out the team. It's probably not something she would have done had she not been going through this issue of sort of self-doubt. She probably would have thought this sort of morphing into Jasper to try and fool the Rubies was too risky, were it not for the fact that she had this new sort of desire to desperately try and do something to really help out the team in some kind of like major way. She really wanted to prove herself. She really wanted to sort of think, I can do this. I want to do something. I want to be the hero. Or heroine, I guess. I really want to, do something big, which everyone can appreciate. And, she obviously just sort of thought to herself, this is my opportunity. I like that. It's made quite obvious that this is not a particularly good idea. It's too risky. But she wants to do it anyway because she's going through this sort of issue of self-doubt. And I really like that. And I don't think I've seen that with a self-doubt arc before, at least not in cartoon shows or kid shows like this. It's kind of interesting. It's not kind of like a little speech at the end, or just self-realization, or her being forced into a difficult kind of situation. It's something she chose to do for herself. This idea of morphing into Jasper, and it kind of makes sense that she would just thought there was at least a chance this was going to work, because as was established the last time we saw the Rubies, they're not particularly bright. So there's every chance that she's going to be able to fool them in some kind of way. This form of Jasper does not look that much like Jasper. She doesn't sound like Jasper. She doesn't act like Jasper. But they're still sort of fooled by it, perhaps because they have no reason to believe otherwise, and also that they're not very bright. So I kind of like that. I would have thought there would have been maybe it would have worked a little bit better. Maybe if there was some point in the episode, maybe where the Rubies became suspicious that this may not actually be Jasper. But, I think it's made quite clear that they haven't actually seen or met Jasper before, so they've just sort of heard about her. So they don't fully understand exactly what she's like, what she looks like, and, they just sort of know about her legacy, her reputation, how she's this, great gem. Or, it makes sense to me that Amethyst would try something sort of irrational and quite risky like this, and it also makes sense to me that the Rubies might be fooled by it. What maybe, in some ways, maybe kind of makes this fall apart for me is the fact that, obviously, there's been stuff about Amethyst's shape-shifting ability in previous episodes. They've not really sort of properly explained the rules of exactly what she can and can't do, what her restrictions in terms of this kind of thing. Can she literally take any kind of form whatsoever? How does it differ from, reforming? Because it seemed to me, in the previous episode, Reformed, which I did actually rewatch just a couple of days ago, just to sort of refresh my memory on what they explain about reforming in that episode. It seems to me like she almost doesn't have any restrictions when it comes to being poofed and then reforming. So I almost wonder if it might have been a better idea to have one of the other gems poof her and then reform as Jasper. But are there other restrictions in reforming that have just not yet been explained or something? I certainly don't think there was anything in that episode that was mentioned about how she can't do thing when it comes to reforming. But it seems like there aren't any restrictions in shapeshifting, certainly. The only restriction, I guess, is kind of sort of this episode, is that she can't hold it forever, I think. And it's not exactly explained why she can't hold it forever, or exactly how long she can hold it for. What exactly makes it difficult. There's actually one point in the episode where she forms back into Amethyst and then immediately turns back into Jasper again. I don't really understand why she did that. If anything, that's more difficult than just simply holding the form of Jasper. So I guess, again, it's not really explained at any point in the episode or any previous episode. It's kind of like picking up a heavy object. The main effort comes, from the picking it up, and then holding it there at first is not too difficult, but the longer it goes on, it becomes more and more difficult. The sort of the forming back into Amethyst for a brief moment, it's kind of like putting the object back down again and then having to pick it up. It's almost more effort. So yeah, I really don't get why she did that. Again, it comes from, not really being sort of properly sort of explained at any previous time exactly how this works. In some ways, actually, that's a good thing. The lore and the mythology of how this world works, what the rules are for everything. It's all so engaging and also well sort of thought out over the course of the first 10, 15, 20 episodes of this show. It really draws you into the show. It's really engaging, and watching an episode like this, it makes me want to know more about how this works. I would love to see an episode where they sort of properly explain this. It's just kind of a shame that it didn't come before this episode. Maybe we'll have an episode about more about her shape-shifting ability. Of course, on top of that, we get more sort of backstory on the events of the diamonds in Homeworld. I guess there's 4 diamonds. We've met Yellow Diamond. We've heard now about Pink Diamond, and just judging from the little symbol that we've seen in previous episodes, I guess there's also White Diamond and Blue Diamond, I think. I think actually Blue Diamond might have been mentioned at some point. But presumably, we're going to find out stuff about that. So I guess Pink Diamond is, not around anymore, as they would say in kids' shows. I like that, actually, that they can say shattered rather than, having to say that she's dead. It takes away the sort of element of death. And, it's explained to us that Rose killed her effectively. And, I completely sort of understand that, that Stephen, I imagine, was probably kind of shocking. But why would she do that? What has Pink Diamond done that would have motivated Rose to actually shatter her? Did she mean to shatter her, I wonder? It's perfectly feasible that she didn't mean to shatter her, in the same way that you can accidentally kill someone. I imagine you can accidentally shatter a gem. Again, that's sort of maybe something else has not sort of been fully explained exactly. What exactly do you do that would differ between poofing a gem and shattering a gem? I guess if you just stab someone in, say, the arm or the leg or something, that would poof them. But if you hit them right where their gem was, say with a spear or something, that would shatter them. Yeah, I guess, that's maybe just a sort of common sense kind of thing. I can figure that out for myself. The shape-shifting thing is kind of the bigger thing that bothers me, because really no sort of proper explanation, at least not as far as we've seen so far. Again, maybe we'll get it in a future episode. And that's kind of nice in a way. It makes me want to know more. It makes me want to see this explained in a future episode. And this is actually one of the few shows I've seen where I actually really enjoy the exposition. Just like listening to Pearl talk about various different things and how they work, everything. It's actually really sort of engaging. And it fits with Pearl's character as well. Exposition characters. I think the official trope name is Mr. Exposition, or in this case, Mrs. Exposition. They are very difficult to write. The character that exists basically just to give us exposition at times. They can be a bit difficult to write, because exposition scenes, by their very nature, are not particularly interesting, they're not particularly exciting, and they kind of take you out of the things going on because they're not particularly natural or anything. But with a character like Pearl, it's very natural for her to just sit there and explain things. So I would love to see her make some kind of attempt at explaining how the shape-shifting works at some point. That would be really kind of cool to see. Obviously, a great cliffhanger ending. Fantastic, drawing you into the next episode as well, which is quite obviously going to be, a very sort of separate story, but obviously following on from the previous one. So I really like the way that they ended that. The stuff with Amethyst is resolved, but then they immediately take you into the next thing. And I noticed actually, Garnet and Pearl fused at the very end there, but Amethyst wasn't able to do that because I guess, she's weak at this point. So the shape-shifting obviously takes up a lot of energy. It takes a lot of effort. Garnet's line, you can't hold that form forever. That's another thing that kind of has a lot of thoughts going round in my head. And again, that's a good thing. It sort of makes me wonder, how much does Garnet understand about Amethyst's shape-shifting ability? Because again, part of me sort of wonder at times, exactly how much Garnet actually knows about Amethyst. Because Amethyst is from Earth. Garnet and Pearl are not. Do they just sort of know each other through association for a long time? When Rose was around, was it just Rose came here to Earth with Garnet and Pearl, and then she just recruited Amethyst, and Garnet and Pearl just got to know Amethyst by way of association? So I sort of wonder exactly how much they really understand about Amethyst. How much do they actually know about how she's different from the two of them? It seems like Peridot actually knows more about Amethyst than Garnet or Pearl. So it seems even that Peridot knows more about Amethyst than Amethyst knows about Amethyst. Blimey, that's a tongue twister. When she says you can't hold that form forever, is that just sort of a guess that she's making, or does she actually know that she can't hold it forever? Because it seems like she would have been capable of holding it forever, because when the rubies actually leave, she willingly changes back into Amethyst. It's not something that I can't do this any longer, I have to change back, I don't care what's going to happen. She actually chooses to change back because she thinks they've gone. But then we see, a moment later, she can't fuse with Garnet and Pearl because she's too weak, so maybe that was literally the last second before she would have had to have switched back again. Again, this is a good thing. I'm not saying the episode's bad or anything. It's good that it makes me want to know more. It's just sort of makes me wonder, are we going to find out more about this, or is this just, kind of a one-off thing that we're just sort of maybe it's encouraging, fan debate and fan theories about how that works. That's also kind of a good thing. I say this because I've already discussed this with a few other fans. What hardcore fans are like. They take any kind of hint at questioning the events of the show as criticism. They think it's me sort of saying that the episode's bad or that the show's bad in some kind of way. And that's not what I'm saying at all. It's making me want to know more. It's a good thing. It's frustrating, but it's still good in a way. It's a lot of interesting kind of things that this episode introduces. I'm not entirely sure if that has actually done away with the rubies, if we've seen the last of them there. I'm not entirely sure actually exactly why they felt the need to even do this for the rubies, and have this thing of taking them to the moon with Amethyst in the form of Jasper. It seemed like, at the very start of the episode, like they were able to contain them. I think Lapis had bubbled them quite well. Would it not have been easier maybe to just, keep them in the temple perhaps or something, or hold them in a cell or at some point and just find out what exactly it was that they wanted. They were able to contain Peridot quite easily, and she seemed, even though there's 5 of them and only one of Peridot, it seems like they're a similar kind of level of threat. As long as you just keep them separate, they can't fuse. Maybe once they've been unbubbled the way that they were, perhaps it was going to be difficult to rebubble them again. It's a minor point though, without them freeing rubies like that and them asking for Jasper the way that they did, you don't have an episode. Really kind of fascinating, really good to see Amethyst try something for herself and come through on her own, and not have it forced on her in any kind of way. Really has me fascinated about Amethyst's shape-shifting ability and how that works. Really want to know more about Pink Diamond. Makes me want to see a bit more backstory about the relationship between Amethyst and the other 2 crystal gems when they first came to Earth, and how she first maybe met them. That could be another good flashback episode, when Amethyst first met the other crystal gems. So yeah, really, really fascinating kind of episode. A lot to say about it, a lot of interesting thoughts going through my head about it. Not quite the last episode of season 3, but definitely ended on a high with an episode like this. So yeah, that's that, guys. See ya.